Greetings and welcome back to room 303 and Senior English A. We are working now specifically with John Gay's Youth's the Season Made for Joys on page 483. Now we've already worked with To the Virgins to Make Much of Time, Robert Herrick's classic. Let's now go to some background information starting on page 481 with John Gay. Notice your date, 1685 to 1732, born in Barnstaple, Devon. He was orphaned at a young age, spent most of his life with his uncle. After finishing school in Devon, he went to London to seek success. His poetry was well known among London's literary elite, and he was admired by many literary stars, including Pope as well as Swift. Now, this poem is an excerpt from John Gay's play, The Beggar's Opera, and was originally set to music. This popular opera was first produced in 1728 and inspired many imitations and parodies. Since then, it ran for an unprecedented 62 performances and was notorious for supposedly satirizing the Prime Minister of the era. Now, Youth's the Season Made for Joys, a poem that is well loved by seniors. It speaks so well to the idea of what it means to be young. Let's just work through it on 483. Youth's the season made for joys. Love is then our duty. She alone who that employs well deserves her beauty. Let's be gay while we may. Beauty's a flower despised in decay. Let us drink and sport today. Ours is not tomorrow. Love with youth flies swift away. Age is not but sorrow. Dance and sing, time's on the wing. Life never knows the return of spring. Now, of course, a poem like this will remind us very well of some of the sonnets that we studied with Shakespeare. The idea that time is quickly passing by. To the Virgins to Make Much of Time obviously will speak to this, as well as, of course, to his coy mistress that we've already studied. Notice this poem divided into two stanzas. We'll begin first of all by talking about the season of life. If you guys are a life of a year in terms of seasons, then your birth is and your youth is in the spring. Then, of course, your adulthood begins into your summer, with old age being your fall and your winter. So this poem begins by pointing out that youth's the season made for joys. Love is then our duty. That is to say, when you're young, as Tennyson said, in the spring, a young man's fancy doth turn to love. Love is, of course, the duty of all those who are young. She alone, who that employs, well deserves her beauty. In other words, you're young and you're beautiful, and when you're young and you're beautiful, love should be a natural correlate. Let's be gay. Of course, here gay meaning happy. We're not talking about sexual preference. We're talking about joy. Be joy-filled. While we may, beauty's a flower despised in decay, sounding, of course, very much like Herrick To the Virgins to Make Much of Time. We've got the same game being played. Beauty's a flower despised in decay. You're only young and beautiful once. This poem says you should enjoy the experience. Let us drink and sport today. Now, as we pointed out in our conversation to his coy mistress, the word sport here doesn't mean that we're going out to play basketball or volleyball. Sport here, of course, has a different meaning entirely. Sport has to do with, obviously, a relationship and being together in that relationship. Let us drink and sport today. Ours is not tomorrow. In other words, the present is all that matters. Love with youth flies swift away. Both of these are quickly gone. Age is not, that is to say, nothing but sorrow. Dance and sing. Time's on the wing. In other words, quickly flying by. Life never knows the return of spring. In other words, one should enjoy one's life when one is young, because once one is old, it's far more difficult to enjoy life because you don't have the things that make life so enjoyable, namely good health and beauty. Well, at level 2A, what are we going to say for a possible message here? Well, there's two ways to read John Gay's poem. One, of course, is the positive instantiation, that you should enjoy the life that is there in front of you when you're young. There is obviously a negative rendering, a skeptical rendering of this as well, that one grows older far quicker if one is not wise with one's youth. I'll let you guys decide which one of these two views best suits you for your reading of this poem. At 2B, we pointed out already, notice that this is a poem of two stanzas. Notice that there's a beautiful rhythm in these lines. Youth's the season made for joys, love is then our duty. She alone who that employs well deserves her beauty. Pa-bum, pa-bum, pa-bum. That iambic beat is nice. At 3a, well, obviously, we've already said the Carpe Diem theme, seize the day, that will be a part of our study of Robert Herrick's To the Virgins That Make Much of Time, as well as To His Coy Mistress, plays a very similar kind of game as this. Finally, at 3b, what are your thoughts about a poem like this? Should your youth be spent chasing after the things of this present, or should your youth be spent in anticipation of a future that you hope is coming for you? Or can there be a balance between these two things, as students often wish for? Can there be a balance, and to what degree do you see this balance as possible? Well, I leave John Gay's poem with you. I hope that you will have some food for thought. Thank you.